Imagine this. You're on a plane, minding your own business, when a white woman throws her bag on your seat and refuses to move it. But just when things start to get heated, an off-duty FAA agent steps in with a shocking twist that no one expected. What happens next will leave you speechless. Stick around till the end, you won't believe how this story unfolds. If you're part of the Black Visionaries family, hit that like button right now and subscribe for more jaw-dropping stories like this one. The flight had just taken off, and everything seemed calm. The usual hum of the airplane's engines filled the cabin as the crew moved through the aisles, making their final checks. It was just another ordinary day for most passengers, all of them wrapped up in their own thoughts or glued to their screens. But little did they know, within the next few minutes, things would take a turn no one saw coming. As the plane climbed higher into the sky, something small, something simple happened. A woman, frustrated and hurried, dumped her oversized handbag onto the seat next to her. But it wasn't just any seat, it was the seat of a black woman who had been quietly minding her business. The bag hit the armrest with a soft thud, but it was enough to break the otherwise peaceful atmosphere of the flight. The black woman, sitting in the window seat, looked up with confusion, not knowing exactly what had just happened. The white woman, who had tossed the bag without a second thought, seemed to be in her own world. She wasn't paying attention to the fact that there was already a person seated there. Her body language screamed impatience, and she was adjusting her things, likely trying to get comfortable for the long flight. It was clear she wasn't even thinking about the space she was invading. For the black woman, though, this act was a violation of her personal space, one that she felt was far too familiar in a world that often made her feel invisible or overlooked. She looked around, expecting someone to intervene, but no one did. She cleared her throat gently and said, "Excuse me, I believe that's my seat." The white woman barely glanced in her direction, as if she hadn't even heard the request. The black woman repeated herself a little louder this time. "That's my seat. I'm afraid you've put your bag on it." The white woman paused and glanced down at the bag, then up at the black woman, her eyes narrowing. "I'm just trying to get comfortable. It's not a big deal," she replied with a dismissive tone, her voice already raising a little. "I understand, but I'm going to need you to move your bag," the black woman responded, trying to keep her voice calm despite the irritation building inside her. She wasn't looking for a fight. She just wanted the respect that anyone would want in such a situation. But the white woman wasn't having it. "You're being dramatic. Just deal with it," she shot back, her words dripping with entitlement. The moment she said that, the tension in the cabin shifted. Other passengers could sense the discomfort, but no one spoke up. People glanced around, unsure if they should get involved. Some looked away, while others nervously shifted in their seats. The flight attendants were making their rounds, but they too were caught in the middle of an uncomfortable moment. One of them, a young woman with a nervous smile, walked up to the row. "Is everything okay here?" she asked, her voice sounding strained. The black woman tried to explain again. "This lady's bag is on my seat, and I asked her to move it." The white woman scoffed. "Why don't you just let it go?" she said, clearly annoyed at being asked to do anything. It was a familiar feeling for the black woman, one she had experienced far too many times before, being brushed off, ignored, or dismissed as if her needs were less important. The flight attendant looked at both of them, her eyes darting back and forth. "I'm going to have to ask you to move the bag, ma'am," she said to the white woman, trying to keep the peace. But then something completely unexpected happened. A voice rang out from behind the two women. "Is there a problem here?" The tone was calm, yet authoritative, and it instantly quieted the cabin. Everyone turned to look, and what they saw was something none of them had anticipated. Standing in the aisle, with a badge clipped to his shirt, was a man who didn't look like a flight attendant or any other kind of regular passenger. He had the air of someone used to being in control, someone with authority. The badge he wore. The FAA. He wasn't just some random passenger. He was an off-duty FAA agent. The white woman blinked, momentarily taken aback by the presence of the FAA badge. The black woman looked at him, surprised but relieved that someone with authority had finally stepped in. The tension in the air was palpable as passengers waited to see how this would play out. "I'm sorry, but there's a problem here," the man asked again, his voice steady, looking directly at the white woman who had caused the scene. "What's going on?" The white woman, trying to regain some control over the situation, opened her mouth to explain, but the FAA agent interrupted her. his voice firm. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to move the bag. It's clearly in someone else's space." For a moment, the white woman seemed stunned. She hesitated before muttering, "I didn't know. I didn't mean to cause a problem." The FA agent didn't miss a beat. "That's not an excuse. Everyone on this plane deserves respect, and that means respecting their personal space." The passengers around them were in shock. The situation had gone from tense to downright surreal. The white woman, now visibly flustered, tried to defend herself, but the authority in the FA agent's presence was undeniable. The black woman, still sitting quietly, was finally starting to breathe a little easier. "Let's just all take a moment," the FA agent said, clearly trying to de-escalate things. "We're on a flight, and we all need to be civil. I'm going to ask that we all act like adults and respect each other's space, especially in these close quarters." The white woman reluctantly moved her bag, and the flight attendants made sure the situation didn't spiral any further. The cabin, still a bit tense, began to settle down. The black woman, while relieved that the issue was resolved, couldn't help but feel a lingering discomfort. She had done nothing wrong. She had simply asked for what she was entitled to, her own space. As the flight continued, the cabin returned to a quieter hum, but the tension didn't completely disappear. Passengers whispered among themselves, exchanging opinions about what had just happened. Some felt that the black woman had been in the right. Others whispered that the FA agent had overstepped. There was a strange feeling of unease hanging in the air. The black woman reflected on what had just happened. She had dealt with microaggressions like this before, small instances where people didn't even realize they were crossing a line, but the impact was still real. But in this moment, she realized something important. Sometimes standing up for yourself doesn't require shouting or anger. Sometimes it's about maintaining your composure and letting others do the heavy lifting. For the white woman, the moment seemed to have passed, but there was something different in her eyes now, a recognition of the authority she couldn't dismiss. Perhaps it was the badge that made her stop and think, or maybe it was the fact that, for once, someone wasn't going to let her walk all over someone else. As the flight landed and the passengers prepared to disembark, the black woman gathered her things, stood up, and made her way toward the exit. She didn't look back. It wasn't a moment for confrontation. It was just another reminder that sometimes the world needed a bit more respect and a little less disregard for personal boundaries. The FA agent had done his job well. He had de-escalated the situation with calm authority, reminding everyone on that plane that respect, even in such confined spaces, mattered more than we often realize. And as for the white woman, well, she quietly made her way to the door, likely with a lot to think about in the silence of the aftermath. But for the black woman, it was a small victory. In that moment, she had stood her ground. Sometimes, that's all we need to do. That's it for today's story. If you want more incredible stories like this, join the Black Visionaries family by hitting that subscribe button and turning on the notification bell. Stay tuned for more, and let's grow together.